Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Lavella.
I'm Lou Spagnola.
And I'm Ron Sen. Welcome to the John Farrell Fan Club. No. Ralph, what have you missed?
I don't know, it's been 6 months since our last show, right? No, 7 months.
Before the Super Bowl.
I know what we missed. We missed about 6 months of Ralph's predictions coming right. I would like to first and foremost prop Ralph up a little bit because we sat here arguing with him when he told us that the Red Sox were never going to maintain last year's statistics. There was no way in hell that they were going to hit the way they did. No way Betts was going to hit like that again. No way the averages were going to be up like that.
Well,
the good news is that the ownership won't have to fork out all this extra money because they're trying not to spend money now all of a sudden. Stay under the salary cap.
can you believe the 4 Bs, though? It's amazing what their stats are.
Yeah, you know what? I actually took the time to look them up because I said, I know I'm coming here. I know that Ralph is going to say it, And so I said, I'm going to look it up. And you know what? To your point, you were dead on. Mookie Betts' average, you would think, was down a little bit, 50 points from last year. But all of them, you look at the 4 Bs, Benintendi, he's been a 2-month slumber, like we talked about before the show started. But do you know what the biggest problem is?
Well, none of them have proved that they're winners. They showed in the playoffs last year. None of them came through.
Yeah, to some degree, that's probably true.
And that's a key. When
young players, though, that can happen sometimes.
With Ortiz gone, that's a
with
huge
Ortiz gone.
See, that's what I was getting at. You cannot take... Ortiz, he had almost 40 home runs. He had, 125 RBIs? That's a huge amount to take out. And they, for all intents and purposes, they replaced David Ortiz with Mitch Moreland.
But you look at it, though, I think they got very, very lucky here. They get Nunez, and they have Devers.
Now,
Devers,
yeah.
I watch him. He's got a great stroke. He's going to be a big-time hitter. I don't know if they're going to catch on a little this year. Usually, you start off good, and then you even off. But he's going to be a big-time hitter. Those two will actually get the other guys hitting again. Because Betts will see, hey, we got Devers, we got Nunez. Some of the pressure's off of us. Go into the game differently. Because, again, none of them have proven that they're winners. But with those two guys, that may be a blessing for them.
Oh.
Well, let's back up to a couple local stories. The Little League managed to get to the state semifinals, which is a terrific victory for them. Ralph said it was the first time in how many years?
I believe 25 years.
So great effort. They got overwhelmed by Holden in the semifinals, but terrific season. Congratulations to all the kids, and I'm sure we'll have some representatives from the team on soon. And at the high school level, Mike Pedrini got named the Male Athlete of the Year at the high school. As everyone knows, he's going to Tufts to play football. I think he also was named a high school All-American in lacrosse. Yeah, I think so. And Victoria Crovo was the Female Athlete of the Year. Terrific season for volleyball and softball, and she had some seasons in basketball
Where's
as
she
well.
going?
I believe she's going to UMass Amherst. So some good local stories. And we'll save some for Jen Gentili when she's here. There's a lot of great track action especially. Want to talk a lot about football first because we haven't really talked about football since before the Super Bowl, and the Atlanta Falcons maintain their reputation as one of the all-time great choke teams, losing a 28-3 lead with just more than a quarter to go.
You know what hurt Atlanta? If you saw the 2 previous games against Seattle and Green Bay, when they had the lead in the second half, I would watch both games, and I'm saying, why are they still throwing the ball? That's the type of team they are. They blew both teams out, but instead of killing the clock, they kept throwing, and they were successful. Yep. So my hope in the second half of the Patriot game was that they were going to continue that, thinking, and that's the only way the Pats could get back in the game, and that's just what they did. And some big defensive plays by the Patriots.
We talk all the time about identity, and the Falcons said, this is who we are, we throw the ball, we don't have to change our game plan, sit on the lead, and it cost them.
Well, you know something? The Patriots, they were flawless on offense. I mean, that was I would be hard-pressed to think in my lifetime, and even beforehand, to think of a game in which a team played flawlessly like every drive. And it wasn't just 3 points. I mean, I can't believe, even thinking back, some of what Brady did, you know, to just, and as a whole team.
Well, just to make two-point conversions, what do you think the odds of that are? Probably 20%
I know.
consecutively?
But I say the reason why they won the Super Bowl is the game they lost to Seattle. If you remember that game, they were down the goal line. They had 5 chances to score and they didn't score,
Yeah.
and they ended up losing that game. And you know Belichick worked on the goal line situations.
Oh, yeah, that's a
and
good
that
point.
play to Amendola, they never ran that play down there before. You know that's because of the Seattle loss. They worked on a play like that, ended up winning them the Super Bowl.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's a good point because,
And the play to White, too.
yeah, I mean, was White outstanding or what? I mean, he set a record for receptions, but he wasn't just catching swing passes. I mean, some of those plays, and even the last one was just a toss that I thought he was dead at the 2-yard line, and he manages to stretch it and get
Not
in.
many running backs would have got in on that.
Yeah.
Well, and they did a sports science review on Edelman's catch, and he had a tenth of a second to adjust his hands and catch the ball before it hit the turf. I mean, it's literally virtually impossible to do what he did.
I still can't believe it, the way he had it, and then he went like this. And
But how about Amendola? 2 Super Bowls in a row, comes up with the big catches.
yeah, and you know what?
His best games.
In my post-game comments to friends that we were watching the game with, one of the things I said was, and this is so typical of Boston sports fans too, we shredded Belichick for signing him, if you remember. What are we signing him for? He's a bum, he's got an injury history, and then the first year he was here, can't stay on the field, made of Teflon, you know, paper, whatever, and here you go.
Well, one of the issues going forward for them is going to be to manage injury. Like, obviously, Gronkowski hasn't played in the preseason for, I don't know, 5 years, something like that. Nor should he. What's the point?
I don't even know if I'd let him play in September or October. I'd find a reason to just...
Right. So for them to win without him, that obviously changes their whole offense. Now, with the addition of Cooks is going to be clearing out the safety, so Gronkowski should be a bigger threat down the middle against linebackers now.
But have they ever been deeper at receiver or running back? I mean, look at the running backs they have in the receivers.
Well, look at the guy Hawkins retired, probably because he saw that there wasn't really going to be a spot for him.
Who's that free agent? What's his name again? That's looking really good.
There's Austin Carr
Carr.
from Northwestern and tight end Hollister. Tight end receiver Hollister that people are talking about.
You know what I love about what Belichick's done too is, and I credit him for this, he's totally changed the makeup of the way offenses run now in the NFL. Because, you know, when I was a kid, obviously, it was you had a left wide receiver and a right wide receiver. You had 2 tight ends. You had running backs in an I formation with the fullback in front. And then, you know, there were obviously a lot has happened since the 80s. But he's basically taken it so that it's almost like you don't even have position names anymore, because he'll put a tight end on the outside, he'll put a tight end in the backfield, he'll put what used to be an H-back will now start out, go in motion, come back, end up tight, and basically everybody has the same thing. They all have good hands, they all can block, because you can't block, if you can't block, you're not playing for Belichick, that's it. So everybody blocks, everybody catches, everybody runs. And until they signed Cooks, they didn't have a burner on that team. Everybody just ran, you know, fast enough. So,
Well, we'll see. You know, obviously, there's always going to be some weakness that fans are going to worry about. You know, we're going to worry about the offensive line because that relates to whether Brady's effective. Now we're worried about Gostkowski. Was last year an aberration, or is it the beginning of his decline?
I'm kind of surprised that they don't have 3 kickers in camp, because that's the
They
way.
didn't bring another kicker in.
That is the
right?
way that Belichick operates, and he got that straight out of the Bill Parcells playbook, is that, you know, if he didn't go and sign one, he would have 2 or 3 in there. You know, I'm surprised Matt Barr isn't out of retirement in there right now. But the offensive line, I think, is the biggest worry, for the simple reason that even though we do have Dante Scarnecchia back, and talk about, you know, the aberration was the years that he wasn't here. Because, I don't know, did he take the same players and turn them back into a great unit, or is it my imagination?
Well, Marcus Cannon went from he's a bum.
We wanted him cut.
To his second-team Pro Bowl.
One of the top offensive
selection.
linemen in football, he was rated.
And
But
that-
look at this,
yep.
the offensive line. The 5 starters are as good as any offensive line. Maybe Dallas, maybe the Raiders. But they're right there, close behind. I mean, Andrews stays healthy, Cannon and Solder at tackle. Then you have Mason and Tooney at guard.
Yeah.
You got, what's his name, Karras backing him up at guard. They cut Jackson. They let Jackson go. But, you know, and then they signed 2, they drafted 2 offensive linemen in the draft. So if they can stay healthy, especially at tackle and Andrews at center, they'll be solid all year. Their tight ends are great blockers.
Exactly, yeah.
Their backs are good blockers. Not like Freeman for Atlanta, who forgets that.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know,
I was on the outside.
after last year, and seeing what happened with Scarnecchia coming back and doing what he did, now I'm going revisionist history. I have to wonder 2 years ago when they lost to Denver in the AFC Championship game, when it was Highway 51, Brady was all over his back, his rear end. Who knows if Dante never retires? Maybe we win that Super Bowl too. Makes you wonder the value of great coaching.
Who do you think is going to be the top team in the AFC to challenge them?
Well, everyone is talking about the Raiders, of course. They got the Seattle running back. Who's that?
Yeah. The one who quit and then came back.
Right.
Marshawn Lynch.
Well, yeah, Marshawn Lynch. And, of course, there's a lot of talk about internal dissent on the team. Apparently, the defense is still upset with Pete Carroll for not running the ball. It's been a couple of years. I mean, at some point, you got to let it go. But they feel that Russell Wilson gets special treatment. He doesn't get treated the same way as the rest of the team.
Well, it's too bad. I mean, they're going to have to bring in they need a good captain. You know, if there's a Mark Messier type player in the NFL, they need him to come in there and just literally slap a few people and some sense into them, because, I mean, you live and die by your coach's decisions, and not everyone is right. And sometimes you make a 15% gamble that pays off and you're a genius. Otherwise, you're a bum for the rest of your life. But overall, I back the guy up and say, hey, in Pete we trust.
I mean, that people can knock him. I mean, don't forget, there was 26 seconds to go in the game. They had no timeouts left. They run the ball. Now they're going to have to hurry up and play and pass it. His last 4 or 5 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1s, he got stuffed. You know, towards the end of the year. You know, he made that pretty good gain when they tackled him at the 1-yard line.
Yeah, he picked
If
up
I'm
3
a
yards, I think.
coach, I'm calling the pass and play first with no timeouts and 26 seconds to go.
Yeah, I think.
That's why Belichick didn't call his timeout with 50 seconds
No,
to go.
absolutely.
Belichick didn't call a timeout when everybody's screaming, call a timeout in case they score, because he wanted to put the pressure on Seattle. Maybe they'll make a blunder. Turns out Butler makes the greatest play in Super Bowl history,
Yeah.
you know, and
Well, if you think back to
But
last
what would you
year,
have done if you were
well,
coaching?
on the last drive in overtime, the pass to Bennett before
Yeah,
White
could have been
it was a
intercepted.
terrible pass. I mean, it was just. I mean, they were fortunate. It would have been a great interception if the guy made it, but it was a terrible pass.
Absolutely. And I think anything can happen, you know. But like I said, revisionist history is really. We could go back over so many plays. You know, you could go back as far as, you know, Lou Piniella not seeing the ball in right field in the rubber game in '78, and he holds up at third base. What if he keeps running? You know, the whole what if. We could play that for 100 years of sports.
Well, it gets back to Johnny Pesky supposedly holding the ball on the relay in 1946, but no, it's not like we were there.
Right, but I mean, there's enough proof that he didn't. But again, you know, it's all what people want to criticize.
then
And
the
when
Buckner thing. I mean, that was a disgrace. He was playing with 2 ankles that were badly sprained.
Well,
He
they
was
wanted
out
him to
there.
be on the field when they won
Yeah.
the World Series.
he wouldn't have been able to jump up and down, but that's okay.
One of the best players. He was one of my favorite players.
I
he
liked
played for the
him, too.
Dodgers. He was great.
Yeah, he was, and you know what? It was a shame, but that's just more of, you know, it's kind of like the Cubs had given Bartman a World Series ring.
Well, there were some other football issues in the news recently. The autopsy study of selected patients who they had 110 out of 111 NFL players' brains that showed CTE. Now, obviously, those are families that referred those subjects for autopsy, and we don't know how many of them had some clinical illness, memory loss, depression, whatever, as part of it. But then Roger Goodell says, well, you know, our players live longer than the average person. I don't think that's true.
What's the quality of life?
Well,
though?
right, and that's what people are saying. If you've seen any pictures of like Johnny Unitas in his later years, his hands look like two claws because his fingers were all in every different direction.
My God, I mean, every one of them, just about any NFL player from back then, their knees are gone, bone on bone. I mean, I don't know, you're a doctor. I think I could guess that quality of life and how long you live are two different things.
You see that young player that was with Goodell? And he says, I want to die on the football field. And Goodell's going, oh, God. You didn't see that?
No, I didn't
No,
see
I'll
that.
have
Oh,
to
they were
watch
trying
it. That's
to,
funny.
it was a PR thing and it backfired.
And then you had Tony Dungy being interviewed about the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history.
Talk about jealousy
He had-
between him and that idiot
what do you
from
have-
Indianapolis.
Had Brady like sixth or something? What are you talking about?
He was the only one, though, out of 7 experts.
Everyone had Brady first or second, and he
Yeah.
puts him sixth. I mean, what did he put? Peyton Manning one?
No, he didn't have Manning one either.
Yeah,
I think he had
that-
Montana, but I think he might have had Eli Manning ahead of Brady. You know, right? It's just
I'm all right with Montana. If anyone wants to say he's better than Brady, that's fine, because you know what? He was 4-0 in Super Bowls. He played in a different era. So it is a little hard to put stat on stat and this and that. I mean, it's hard to argue against a guy that was 4-0 in Super Bowls. But come on.
Would you rather be 4-0 or 5-2?
Honestly, Brady's not even done yet.
No,
Montana
right
didn't have
now.
a prayer of getting 5. I'd rather be 5-2.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, the one thing that people, it was funny how many people criticized Brady after those losses. But, you know, just like this game here against Atlanta, game is 4 quarters. We know he wasn't that good in the first half. He lit it up in the second
Well,
half.
Blount ruined everything for them.
But-
He doesn't get the first down on the first drive.
Right,
He fumbles
right.
the ball when it's scoreless, the game scores, on their 30-yard line, Atlanta.
Yeah, it was a lot went wrong. It wasn't just Brady, but the thing is, it's the old adage, great players aren't always great. They're great when they have to be. And I think that if you take a look at Brady against the Giants, you know, they put him on his rear end the whole game, the undefeated season.
but-
and we know what happened, but
Oh.
he walked off the field with the lead late in
Yeah.
the game, and that's what champions do.
Well, I bought a pizza the day of the Super Bowl last year, which I proceeded to way overcook. So the pizza was terrible. It's 21-3 at the half, and I'm saying, this is not my day. So, but they turn it around.
But you look at the 2 Giant games, right? The first one, he brings them down with so many minutes to go. Throws a touchdown pass to Moss. That was the first drive they went with a hurry-up offense.
Yeah.
The whole game, and half the defensive line was on the bench, taking in oxygen.
Yeah,
If
that
they
was-
started the hurry-up offense early on, those guys would have been tired. The second game, he was 16 for 16, the second Giant loss. And Welker drops that pass. That would have been the first time would have won it.
I know it. Believe me.
I'm reading a book now called Vision of a Champion by Anson Dorrance, who's the UNC soccer coach. Now, UNC won 22 out of 34 NCAA championships. So Dorrance kind of knows what he's doing. He coached Mia Hamm, a lot of other great players. But he talks about the difference between exceptional players and the average player, even at a high-level program. And he says the exceptional player can flame on in the critical moment. They can rise above everything else. And that's what Brady has proven to do. I mean, you don't look at him as being an exceptional athlete, but he obviously is.
Well, how many players, to your point, we can name a whole bunch of them in all the 4 sports, but it's not like there's a ton of them. You know, I mean, when I was a kid, I thought about Roger Staubach. You know, even though, you know, as a kid, I rooted for the Steelers because they were in the Super Bowl almost every year. But there was no way Bradshaw was actually a better quarterback than Staubach was. If you really looked at what they both brought, I think they were both Hall of Famers, but I think Staubach was probably that guy that you put him down and out and he'll find a way to get it done.
Well, supposedly, he parlayed his smarts into a real estate career after football. And I don't know if Brady has more money than he does now, but of all the retired players, Staubach apparently has the greatest empire of something like $700 million worth of real estate.
You know what it is? I saw a special on him. He hates to lose. He basically said it. He goes, he says, you know, I seem like a nice guy. He goes, and I think I'm a nice guy. He says, but, and then Troy Aikman comes on and he said, so, you know, me and Roger, he wants to play, you know, come on, we'll race to 5. He goes, so Roger's throwing, he's shooting basketballs, he's missing. He goes, and all of a sudden he hits one. He goes, all right, so I'm up 1-0. He goes, and he goes, and you know, he goes, and I'm like, really? He goes, but you know, and then of course he hits his next 5 in a row, you know?
Well, he was brilliant to go to Annapolis, too.
Right. Well, again, another era because he had to sit out for a few years because of his Navy commitment.
And hey, you know what? You want to talk about coaching decisions? He sat on the bench while Craig Morton lost the Super Bowl for Dallas. So, you know, even Tom Landry, as smart as they are, they make bad decisions from time to time.
Well, the other kind of intrigue story in the NFL is Colin Kaepernick, who still is unsigned. Colin Kaepernick is the quarterback who elected to take a knee during the national anthem to protest unfair treatment, or what he perceived as unfair treatment or unequal treatment, especially in police encounters. But anyway, afterwards he contributed $1 million to charity. He's done a lot. And what's interesting is the NFL doesn't seem to have any problems with child beaters, with wife beaters, with people who've had illegal weapons charges, alcohol and drugs, owners with drug problems. I mean, the NFL has a curious double standard. They say, well, we're concerned that our fans won't accept this. Come on.
Well, they're the owners, though. They have the right to sign whoever they want. So if I'm an owner of the...
All right, you have the
if
right
I'm
to
the
have...
owner of the Patriots, there's no way I'm signing him.
No,
to be
well,
a
yeah.
backup
No, that's the key.
and have 90% of my fans upset that I signed them?
But Bill Belichick, if he thought he could play, he would be in
No
a Patriots
way,
uniform.
no way.
I believe that. I really
Not if
do.
Kraft knew they were going to take a hit and a half for signing him.
I
Well,
think
first
that,
of all, the Patriots have over
That's the-
50,000 people on the waiting list. The Broncos have 75,000 people waiting for season tickets. The Broncos quarterback situation isn't that great. I'm not saying Kaepernick belongs on a specific team, but there aren't 100 quarterbacks in the NFL on rosters right now who are better than he is.
no, and you know what? To your point, let's just take a look at it. I mean, has he regressed from the Super Bowl season? Of course he has. But I get it. He's got lousy mechanics. He runs before he sizes up and reads the defense. But those are fixable.
He
And
didn't have a bad season last season.
I think
But
if
he's going to
you
be
put him,
if he's going to be a backup in a team, you'd be an idiot as an owner saying we'll sign him.
I don't know if anybody could honestly make a case to
So he's
say.
not blackballed, actually blackballed. They
Yeah, he is.
He's,
no,
he's,
he is a blackball.
He's blackballed. To not get an invitation to 30 camps, 32 camps, I mean, that's, even you got to kick the tires
But
on
I mean,
a
the
guy
owners
like
didn't
that.
get together. The owners didn't get together and say,
Oh, no, I think
hey,
he's
don't
a
sign
pariah.
him.
I think that
It's
they,
each owner made his decision.
I think that when you carry too much of what could be perceived as negative baggage, you're trying to go into a team. Every team wants to market their upcoming season as hope. I mean, we all start the season 0-0, so you don't want to go in with that kind of baggage.
Well, when you look at the NFL and their patriotic standard, the patriotic standard is they put a giant flag out there in return for money from.
That's what it is.
So the NFL owners are all about money, and if they think something's adverse for business, okay, you can say they're concerned about drama. You don't want any drama with your backup quarterback. That's fine, but realistically, he's getting a raw deal.
But he made a terrible decision. He should have done it a different way. He should have went to his congressman. He should have went to the politicians. He should have went to Washington with other people, with other athletes. That would have went over way better than what he
Wearing
did.
a Fidel Castro shirt was just,
And that Black Lives Matter sock.
He went to. The thing is, though, my thing is, did I think he went about it right? No. Did I agree with him? No. I don't believe you should disparage the flag or the anthem. However, if you're going to make a stand or a sit like he did, then he could have taken that somewhere and really made a difference. Like you said, talk to congressmen or appeal to people, not to say, I'm right and we all need to start sitting for the flag, because, as a school teacher, I've noticed that there are a lot of kids that don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance now in the last year. But is that right? Is that making anything better, or are you just making a stand for no reason? I don't think he helped himself.
But if he got together, I know Bill Russell's much older now. You know, he's older, but the top black athletes, if he got together with them, you know, and they went to their politicians and whatever, I mean, people would take that way better.
Well,
I mean,
when
I
Le-
respect that
Well,
huge.
when
And hey,
LeBron-
he's going to Washington, he's upset.
Well, when LeBron James and Chris Paul and was it Carmelo Anthony went on stage to protest about Black Lives Matter, there was no problem. So,
Well, President,
A little bit. There was some
Who
flack,
is our
but-
president now? Why is he our president now? Okay, just think about that.
that's probably
about
not
all
a
that.
discussion we want to get into.
No, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
but you know what, though? I guess the bottom line where Kaepernick is concerned, I guess, is that you're looking at something that in delicate times, it's very hard to make a point these days because in social media, anybody wants to tear you down, even if you're right. So the fact is, he did have an opportunity to take his gripe and bring it somewhere. But then he went about it the wrong way. I think, you know,
But let's
the
get
way
back to the athletes, the 4 guys that stood up at the ESPYs. I think it was the ESPYs.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
At the ESPYs. They mentioned all that. Not one time did they mention the 5 Dallas police officers that got executed. Not one time did they mention that.
Yeah, I
I'm
think,
telling you.
you know what it is. You're talking about TV now, and you're talking about where are we going to go with this? Like, you know, you're almost better off. Okay, they did what they did. They said what they said. Now let's just go to commercial and let's just go to the next act. You know, I don't think anybody. It's very hard. It's sensitive, and too many people just divisive.
I
you know?
would love to just see people talk. Sit down and talk.
Well, that's
You
a
know,
problem.
No, and I mean-
since social
I mean,
media
that's
came
the
out,
problem.
nobody wants to talk anymore.
Well,
Because that finds solutions, you know? And that's everything. That's every problem. You can actually find a solution to anything if you talk.
I mean, at the end of the day, much of the time, decisions are made to maintain the status quo and the power of the people who are in power. Why would you not want to remain in power? And, you know, that's probably not going to change in the foreseeable future. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We haven't even discussed the NCAA tournament. And Ralph, you get your chance to give the postmortem on the UConn Huskies.
Well, you know, the UCLA game, 2 games before they lost in the semifinals, I could see they were losing the edge. You had a team that was young and inexperienced, but talented, and they had a great season, undefeated. It was amazing, the schedule they had and to go undefeated. But I could see them starting to lose the edge. You were starting to get to them. In that game they lost, they're going up against a team that was building for that game. And Connecticut was trying to, just keep at a same pace. Well, the pace they were going at, it wasn't good enough. They didn't work on certain things to go up against, to offset teams like that. Never worked on it because they were so successful all year. You know the mental approach, the edge. I said, I don't know if I talked to you before that, but in the UCLA game, I saw them make a lot of mental mistakes. They were starting to lose the edge, and it showed in that game.
Well, what I think they were trying to do is that the women's national team, the Olympic team, ran a play at the end where they enter the ball at the post, the wing cuts back door, maybe for a layup, and if they don't, they keep going through and they get screens for a shot. Instead, they give the ball to Chung, who's not a great offensive player.
I was screaming when she got it at the end of the game.
It's like you want the ball with your best player, or at least an offensive threat. So I don't know if they just had brain lock under pressure.
Well, you know what killed them, though? They were having so much success with Williams, and Collier. They were scoring at will throughout the whole tournament. That they really set aside Samuelson, players like her. And in that game, you could see it. I mean, they weren't going. I mean, Samuelson hit a couple of 3-pointers, but she wasn't getting the ball enough because of the success they were having. Well, Williams missed a couple of free throws. Collier missed an easy layup in overtime. And then with 20-something seconds to go, when Chung gets the ball, Oriema should have called a timeout.
Well, it's just really hard to win every year, which is why it's so amazing that UCLA won 9 out of 10. I don't care who how they did it, but okay, they had Walton, they had Lou Alcindor / Abdul Jabbar. They had a lot of great players, but one year they had a team with a 6'6" center. So it's just tough to, with that level of competition, to win all the time.
Well, I'll give you my guarantee. I never like to say a team's going to go undefeated. I mean, they got a very good chance of going undefeated. They're going to win it this year. They're going to win it this year because they're going to go in with the edge. They're going to keep the edge. They got the experience. Their top 4 players are back. They've got the best player in the country coming in. They have Stevens, who was the transfer. She's eligible 6'6".
Well,
They're
you
going to
know,
win it this year.
we'll see. Sometimes when the champ is beaten, other teams say they can be beaten. So we'll see. But of course, we have the NBA, and I guess a lot of people thought that the super team wouldn't win, but the super team, largely because of Durant, who was amazing in the finals, came through. There was talk, I guess somebody said to Durant, you know, you're the second best player in the league, and he said, like, what are you talking about? So,
Well, LeBron James is still better than him. Not much, but he played better than him in the series.
it's just,
But you know, here's the key in the series was when the Cleveland blew the 3rd game, because that would have went 7 if they won that game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, because they played well in Golden State in the 5th game, but they ended up losing at the end.
Now, let me ask a question now. This might be a rhetorical question. Do you remember Michael Jordan ever disappearing in the 4th quarter of a playoff game? Or do you remember Larry Bird being non-existent? I'm not talking about a game in which maybe they're down by 16 and you know it's over. So guys don't run as hard. It's just back and forth and the clock goes and that's the end of the game. I'm talking when a game is on the line. I never saw Jordan. He wanted the ball and he took the ball.
You talking about the 3rd game?
LeBron just, to me, he has
Here's what-
so many games of greatness, but he has so many times that you're just like, how can he have 2 points right now? This is a 4-point game. How can he have 2 points and 2 shots this quarter?
Well, here's what happened to him in the 3rd game. The 3rd game is what you're talking about when they
yeah,
had
he
the
disappeared.
7-point lead.
He disappeared.
But here's what he did. They have him playing 44, 45, 46 minutes in a 48-minute game.
I
He's
know.
32 years old. He's still a
Absolutely.
great athlete. But in the 4th quarter in that 3rd game, you could see he lost a little. He lost a little of that energy he had. So he wasn't able to take it to the hoop. He would penetrate and dish instead of finishing.
Yeah,
And then when he let Durant hit that 3-pointer, that big 3-pointer, he played off of him. If that was the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd quarter,
yeah, he would have been more in his
came up
face.
on
I
him.
agree, but
He was losing a little in those. That's what happens. He scored 11 points in the 5th game, but he scored 11 points because Golden State was ahead and they didn't play that tough defense on him. But he just didn't have it to go. He needed a rest, but when you took him out, no one was coming through for him.
you know what it is? Maybe it's unfair. Maybe it's just the way folklore of athletes goes.
But if he played 36 minutes a game, like a lot of the stars were playing, I know Durant even played more in those games, but he's younger.
at the end of the day, the NBA is about the talent. I mean, sure, there are some outstanding coaches, and I don't think Tyronn Lue is one of them.
No.
I mean, LeBron kind of runs the team. I don't know if he's the general manager now, too. Obviously, Kyrie is on his way out.
I think
You
he
gotta
was
call-
the GM the day he came into town again.
You got to save your timeouts if you're Cleveland. With a guy like LeBron James, you save your timeouts. In the second half, you call them. You take LeBron out after 8 minutes of the 3rd quarter, right? Take him out after 8 minutes. Save 2 of your timeouts between the 8-minute mark and the end of the quarter. So now you're calling, he's out for 4 minutes, and you're calling 2 timeouts during that period. So he's actually out for 8 minutes.
Yeah, that's
Okay, then you keep him out maybe the first, maybe 2 minutes to the 4th quarter, then he plays the rest of the game. He's rested. He's able to play it strong like he did early in the
tell you
game.
that-
But the
you know,
coaches don't think that way.
The most convoluted formula in the world is the salary cap of the NBA.
I don't know.
So the Cleveland salary, I think, was $129 million last year with the cap less than $1 million. This year, I don't know what their salary is going to be because it depends on what happens to Kyrie Irving, but it's their 4th year in a row over the cap, so they have to pay $4 for every dollar they're over. So if you're the owner, you could be end up paying $120 million worth of penalty if you're at the same salary.
Well, look at Golden State. How much did they?
Oh, I can't even imagine. They just signed all their guys
Signed
over
them?
again.
I thought they were going to lose the guy from Philly. What's his name?
Oh, Iguodala.
Iguodala, he
They
was a
had-
key.
They had Livingston. They signed McGee over again. I don't even.
Well, I'll
40
tell you.
million for Curry. It's
Who's the next team that's going to challenge them?
I don't think this year it's going to be any different.
No, I mean in the
I
near
think it's gonna
future.
be- I think it's
In
going to be
2
the
years,
same
it's
two
going to be the
teams again.
Celtics.
The Celtics in 2
The
years.
Celtics in 2 years. I think they need another year. This could be
Tatum
their,
and Brown.
This could be the Celtics 1980, when this could be that. Here they are. They took the jump, and now it was like, remember in 1980 when the Celtics lost? I remembered thinking, next year is the year they are going all the way, and they did, and you just knew it. It was a bad kept secret. Everybody knew. I think Celtics are 2 years.
I'm trying to figure out who Tatum reminds me of. You know, I'm thinking maybe Tracy McGrady, but I mean the guy can really score.
Lenny Bias in
Uh,
college could shoot, take the ball to the hoop.
I think Bias was a little more
Bi-
physical.
Yeah, Bias was a little.
But
They say Paul Pierce. He can score the way Paul Pierce was strong.
yeah, but he
That would
he
be
was,
nice.
I mean, you got to always say it's only summer league, but in summer league, he did a lot of things that you just sort of say like, the kid's 19 years old, and the footwork he has, the moves he has away from the basket, the ability to pivot and take the ball to the basket, he should be something.
I saw him play 4 straight games in the ACC tournament when they won it. They beat North Carolina. He was by far the best player out of all the players. I mean, beginning of the year he was hurt. He was playing real good just before the end of the season. But in that tournament, he was unbelievable. In playing with Isaiah and playing with Hayward, and God, and playing with Horford.
Well, the problem is going to be the utilization rate. That is, Thomas can't have the ball as much as he had last year.
Well, the good thing is that as the season went on, Thomas gave up the ball. And he went to the wing and come off a pick, and he'd get the ball in the half court. He didn't bring the ball up that much. What I like is that when Utah played Golden State, in the second half, the guy that was bringing the ball up for Utah was Hayward. Hayward's unbelievable bringing the ball up.
Yeah, Hayward can easily play the 2, and he can play some 1.
In one dribble, he separates himself. I saw him separate himself from Green and Durant with just one dribble on the wing. He'd have the ball on the wing, Durant would be on him. He'd fake one quick dribble, he'd be like 10 feet away with just one dribble and pull up for the jump
Speed
shot.
kills.
Well, there's all this talk about positionless basketball. Or really, it's more important defensively as far as switching out. So you can't let teams beat you on uncontested threes. So, which is what Golden State does, what the Rockets do. Those are 2 of the particular teams, and that's what the Celtics did when they beat Golden State the previous year. So they got guys like obviously Brown. This kid Ojale looks like he can switch out
I love
on
him.
big players.
I love Ojale. I think Ojale is going to be something in a couple of years.
And it'll be interesting to see. Shane Larkin was very good in Europe.
Yeah, I'm hoping he's.
So, he might be a serviceable backup, because I just think they got to lighten up the minutes for Thomas with his hip problem.
Well, plus they'll have Rozier and Smart will play the point at times. I mean, you look at Smart when he's playing the point, even though he can't shoot. You got him in there with Brown, say Tatum, Hayward, and Horford. Just say a lineup like that. They can all switch, and you're not losing anything.
Yeah, and the players they got from Detroit, Baines and Morris, they're bangers. They'll be able to get you some rebounds.
Well, you look at that.
Needed that.
No, but you look at
That was
that
the
team,
thing.
right? When they go up against the Lopez's, the Gasols, the big centers, they can bring Baines in. Baines is a banger, and he lives on the offensive boards too when he's in there.
Yeah, that's what they needed.
He's going to be the first guy they have that will get on the offensive boards. And then at times he won't play much when they play a team like Golden State, when they go with this small lineup, or Cleveland. You won't have Baines in there. You'll have Morris in there mostly.
Well, it's going to have a
with
lot
Horford.
more. He's got a lot more flexibility now than he did a year ago. My thing with Thomas, even when he was great, when he was putting up 30 points in the fourth quarter, that was great. But don't forget, you go the other way, and it's like you're on the other team's on a power play because at 5'9", especially if the other team goes big, who is he going to really match up against? Other than just trying to bang into him.
There's a pretty new book called The Undoing Project. Who wrote that book? Michael Lewis, the guy who wrote Blind Side. So the book is about behavioral economists, one of which won the Nobel Prize, but the first chapter is extensive, and it's on Daryl Morey, the Rockets general manager. And since Morey took over, he's really big on analytics. And the Rockets, for about 15 years, have the third best record in the NBA. And there, the ultimate shot chart is layups, threes, and free throws. That's just what they do. And it'll be pretty tough to see with Chris Paul and Harden. You know, that's going to be tough to cover both of those guys.
How are they going to play together? Unless Paul wants to play the two at times, but he wants to handle the ball.
Right.
And Harden is at his best when he has the ball.
Right.
It's going to be interesting.
It'll be more interesting to see if Paul scores more just on open mid-range shots.
Hey, the only thing I want to see is the Lakers end up in second, third, or fourth play. You know, with the.
All right,
pick.
we want to talk about the Lakers a little bit. Obviously, they got Lonzo Ball, the wonder kid point guard from UCLA, and his poster child, bad behavior father, who has really gone over the top recently with his antics in Vegas. Why don't you talk about that?
Is he trying to be Minahan on WEI? God almighty.
Just an idiot.
How stupid can he be?
I know it's.
I mean, to get on the referee, who Rush was a former referee. Did you hear that story?
No.
Rush is the former referee, chief referee in the NBA. Well, out in California, he's in charge of the refs out there. And they put him through a program where they teach him, they show him film of every game they do in these AAU tournaments. He was there. They were filming them. And then after the games, the refs go into a room, and they go over the game. Now, this female ref that Ball got on is one of their better refs. And they looked at the film, and she did a very good job. He told them, I don't know if you heard it, that
I did.
she couldn't do the second half or he's going to take his team. They should have said, take your team.
They should have said, take your
What
team.
is wrong with
Exactly.
Adidas?
I agree 100%. That was so
Well,
stupid
there's
that they did.
conspiracy between shoe companies, AAU, and some high
Well,
school
that's
and
another
college
story
coaches.
entirely.
Gary Williams was a coach at Maryland. He was at BC a million years ago. And he eventually quit at Maryland. He said, I can't have a chance to win a national championship because I won't sell my soul and pay off AAU coaches so that I'm allowed to talk to the players. You know, it's just ridiculous what's going on. And Ball, can you imagine being in a game and demanding that they replace the referee? They just laugh us out of the stadium.
And then, what was it, the next game where he says, I'm going to give you my three best refs? I'm going to give you my three best refs. They're on the board, though, but I'm going to give you my three best refs to Adidas. They go up to them, and he goes, but I want to tell you, my three best refs are females. So Adidas says, no way.
Yeah,
So he goes, so Rush goes, all right, my fourth best ref is a male. So I can see where you want males and females maybe. So it'll be two females and one male. And they go, no. Can you believe that? So Rush said, my refs will never ref another one of your tournaments. You go get other
Rightly
refs.
so. I mean,
Well,
it's kind of
That
ridiculous.
was a disgrace.
Earlier, Ball said that he could, when he was in his prime, he could beat Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan answered, he couldn't beat me if I only had one leg.
He couldn't beat him now.
Well, what is
Jordan, no.
What is wrong with him?
And today, apparently, Ball said that when he was younger, he was a better athlete than Gronk. You know,
I
it's
saw
just-
that. I just saw that today. I mean,
He said his son's going to be better than Magic.
just the biggest problem I have now is when the boob factor overload. You know, it's like, to me, it's over with now. The guy's just trying to put on a show. When are they going to stop putting the microphone in front of him?
Well, he's got his big baller brand shoes and I'm sure hats and jackets and everything else, and they'll sell a certain amount. So I guess it's no such thing as bad publicity. Just get out there and keep hawking the merchandise.
Oh, he's going to get his own show, you know that. Reality show, he'll definitely get
How
that.
about the overbearing sports parent, though? I mean, we can think of so many over time, you know? Or even actors like Brooke Shields and her mother. Her mother got more press than she did, you know? And eventually what happens? They get restraining orders against them, you know?
But that was, everybody's against him now. That was so stupid.
No, he's an idiot. Everything I've read about him, there's nothing to be sympathetic about when you read one thing after another. And that there was just, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a fake ad when I saw
But then
it.
he goes, the female ref she should stay in her own lane. You hear him say that? I mean,
Well,
it's just ridiculous.
You know, it's ultimately, regarding officials, it's about respect and reciprocity. Okay, there are examples when, you know, sometimes you go into venues and, well, I'll give you an example. I used to have a pharmaceutical representative that would come who also refereed Division I college. And he said there were certain places you would go that if you didn't call the game in the favor of the home team, you'd never be invited back again. You know, one of them rhymes with Syracuse. So,
Oh, I know, that was,
so
Terrible.
now,
but our refs, with our kids in youth sports, most of the female refs are excellent refs.
yeah, I thought
You
for the
know?
most part the officials were pretty good this season, you know, but maybe some of our games weren't that close. We were losing, so what was the point in arguing?
But I mean, you know something, every level, and you guys know from coaching, every level, you have to work the ref over a certain degree because we know there's a human element that they're going to miss a call or they're going to favor the other team, certain venues like that. We've all experienced it. You got to get your licks in a respectable manner, and you have to push them so that hopefully they even things off. But that's really the end of it. I mean, you want to be able to the end of the game just wave and say, all right, you know, good night, Ralph. Good night, Sam. You know?
Well, somebody told me they were over, I think it was Reading, and there was one girl who was just fouling everyone and not getting any calls against her. And after the game, she got in the car with the ref, who apparently was a relative. So,
Oh, God.
I mean, that's just wrong. I'm sorry. You got to recuse yourself
That's
sometimes.
ridiculous.
Well, you know something? I guess segueing back into LeBron, you want to talk about managing minutes. If they called a few fouls on him like they should have, maybe he wouldn't have been so gassed in the final. I mean, he goes through every playoff series. I mean, what did he I think he's fouled out once, if I can remember, in his entire career in a playoff game. Has he even gotten as close to 5?
I don't know.
Well, what are they going to do with Irving? You think they're going to trade him?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If they trade him, the Celtics could win the East, could play in the finals.
Well,
Who else is going to compare with the Celtics if the Celtics stay healthy?
Well, presumably if they traded him, they wouldn't be as strong, and then LeBron is going to say, well, I'm not going to kill myself to be top team in the East. So then he'll be saving himself for the playoffs.
He'll be a year older, too.
but I think he
Yeah.
kind of did that this last year. I mean, he didn't care that they were seeded second, that they were giving. You kind of knew it was a collision course of Celtics and Cleveland in the finals.
I don't know if people
know.
understand how good Hayward is. You know, they're saying, yeah, they hear Hayward. Fans that are pretty good fans but not great NBA fans, they're hearing people talk about Hayward. But
Yeah,
Hayward,
I mean-
Hayward has surpassed Butler as a 3, played a 2, can handle the ball. You know, he's right there with George. I think he's a better all-around player than George right now. Just watching him against Golden State in the playoffs, scoring 32 and 30 against them,
Yeah.
and then scoring 28.
Oh, no, definitely.
Three
Well,
games,
ultimately,
you know.
all you have to do is worry about trying to get to the finals through the East. I mean, Washington's still good, Toronto's still good. The West is brutal. Minnesota's better. Oklahoma
Oh,
City's
yeah.
better. I'm not sure if San Antonio might be getting worse.
I think they finally jumped the shark.
Well, they have
they
one
got
of the
Ted
top,
McGinley on the team.
but they have one of the
roll
top 3 players in basketball. So when you have him,
Well, you know, and
Leonard,
the coach is pretty damn good
people.
too.
Some people are saying Leonard's better than Durant, which I don't think so. But I think all around he is.
But you know what it is, though, as you know, I mean, what Durant brought to that team, I mean, that team was an embarrassment of riches that they probably would have beat Cleveland without Durant. The thing is, though, Durant came in and he played the way he was supposed to play, which made you say, can you imagine that guy in a Celtics uniform? You know,
Well,
He almost got there.
almost got here. It would have been really nice.
One of the topics in the basketball community now is, are contemporary athletes so superior to previous athletes that greats from the 60s couldn't compete? And I'd just say, well, for example, Bill Russell. He was the 7th rated high jumper in the United States. Obviously didn't go through to the Olympics on that because he was playing pro basketball.
Had the best timing out of any big man.
Yeah, Will Chamberlain was a track star at Kansas, a pro volleyball player. He was 7 feet tall, 250, and could lift up a house.
Shaq and him, Chamberlain and Shaq. He would have been better than Shaq, as good as Shaq was.
Yeah,
So just look at Shaq.
Chamberlain, he wasn't a great free throw shooter, but that was the only thing he couldn't do.
Look at Elgin Baylor.
The only knock on him, you could say.
Elgin Baylor was better than most of the threes playing now. And Jerry West and Oscar Robertson.
Well,
Who was better than them?
it's like saying Havlicek wouldn't be good because he wasn't as fast as the next guy.
I mean, the game was slower back then, though. You drew up plays. You didn't just. It wasn't a run and gun. I mean, it was an art of getting the ball, the way they cycled around and the way they passed it and tossed it and did everything. I mean, it was almost like there was a grace to the game that today it's so much faster.
When I was at
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean better.
And they don't understand the game as well as they do.
No,
now.
no.
I was at
definitely
Sam
not.
Jones camp, I think in '74 as a counselor, and the worst counselor player ever. But Sam Jones put 4 quarters on the back of his hand, turned his hand over and caught him, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't do that. Then he went over, now he's an old man, he's in his 40s at that point as a basketball player. He went over to the wing and outdoors made 40 in a row from the wing.
Banked them all in.
Bank shots 40. Now,
He was the best bank shooter ever.
he just stopped. I mean, maybe he could have made 100 in a row. He made 40 in a row. What do you want? So, I mean, and then he was an old man. I mean,
I think
unbelievable.
there was something to be said, though, for preparation. What led a person to become a pro? I mean, you see, I'm sure LeBron has shot a million jump shots in his preparation. I'm sure these guys do that. But I don't think the team preparation, outside of the coach, I mean, you just don't see the plays drawn up the way they used to be. Even in the 80s, even when the Celtics were playing the Lakers in the finals. I mean, I don't think basketball will ever be that good again. But I don't think you can look back and say that the players in the 60s weren't as good.
Yeah, I think it's always hard to compare eras. But, well, here's an example. Usain Bolt, fantastic sprinter, versus Jesse Owens. They did a computer reconstruction, Jesse Owens versus Usain Bolt, 1936 versus contemporary. Now, Usain Bolt would have won by 14 feet. And then they said, well, what did they start with? Did they have starting blocks? No. They just, you like dug a little hole in the dirt.
Yeah.
You had crummy shoes. You weren't running on some
The surface.
artificial surface. You were running on crushed, burned wood, chips, so cinders. So that they've estimated that when you make those corrections, that Jesse Owens would have lost by less than a step.
And then the training, too. The training is so much different.
nutrition,
nowadays.
everything is different. So it's hard to
All
compare.
sports, though. I mean, football, those guys used to. One of the best stories I've heard was Jerry Chivas. His spring training, he drove around Suffolk Town's parking lot with a trash bag on and the windows closed so he could lose a few pounds. I mean, that's what those guys did.
Compare that to Brady nowadays.
Yeah, well, Brady, he brought a lot of attention to his unorthodox, what he's got going on, the way he trains
But
and
he's
what
quicker
he
now
eats.
than he was when he was in his 20s.
The results
He really
speak for
is.
themselves.
Yeah, you have some guys like Jerry Rice was famous for running up the hill behind Candlestick Park. And it was like a mile and a half, and he'd just sprint the whole way. But there's so much difference between now and then. You can't really muster a great argument that one generation of athletes is fantastic and the others were poor.
The only thing I think you can really say without any shred of a doubt is players are playing better longer at older ages. I mean, Johnny Unitas, in his last season, he looked like an old man. I mean, he looked like he was 74.
Well, they're in great shape.
These
now.
guys, and that was the thing. I mean, I remember when 30 was the gray beard. You were like,
Sure.
oh, he's 30. And now it's like,
I don't know if there's a classic picture of Y.A. Tittle of the Giants, I think losing to
blood.
the Browns. He's right, he's kneeling down, blood coming
Oh,
down
I
his
remember
face.
that.
He looks like he's 60 years old.
When they threw him to the ground.
he looked like he was 60.
At last count, I believe he was still alive living in Texas, but he's got severe memory loss. Anyway, we'll be right back. Welcome back. We move on to baseball and the insufferable team that plays in America's most beloved ballpark, an insufferable statement in and of itself. The Red Sox are embroiled in a controversy over negative announcing. So now you can go 0 for 4, not even foul a ball off, but you took some good swings. It's unbelievable. I can't leave the sound on anymore to watch the game.
These guys are made of popcorn nowadays. I mean, you know what? If you go 0 for 4, hit the cages earlier. If somebody says you stink, I mean, this is just one more thing in this. You know, you can't criticize anybody anymore. You know?
What did Eckersley ever criticize, though? What did he go overboard?
Rodriguez was in
Yeah, that
rehab
was nothing.
assignment. He had bad stats. So Eckersley said, yuck. Well, the stats were terrible. If they were my stats, I'd say yuck.
And then he knocked Pedroia for saying it wasn't me when they threw at
Well,
Okay.
I don't think that's a real leadership thing. Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Well, unfortunately, they are on the same page because the whole team universally sided with Price when he came to the defense of Rodriguez. Like, you know, he really needed that.
It's like
and then Price didn't.
Tom Berenger in Major League.
Yeah, exactly. That's about the extent of it, really.
Well, I
if you
think the
about it.
thing that really ticked Price off is that when he didn't cover first base and Eckersley said it, but Eckersley also said it's happened to me. Said it cost him 2 or 3 runs, whatever it was, and he said it's happened to me when I was pitching. So, I mean, that's not being negative. You're talking about the game.
Didn't
He's
Price-
definitely not negative.
Didn't he say something about, like, Eckersley, what's he ever done or something like that?
No, it's really hard. I mean, the other night they were talking about how the Red Sox had to win a bunch of games at the end of the season to win the division, and then they were really tired, so they played poorly against the Indians. They're just making excuses. They lost. They got beat. That's how it is. That's the way sports works. There's no excuse making.
I know it. The numbers speak for themselves, like starting with wins and losses, and then with what your best players do, given the opportunity to get up at bat. They didn't hit, they didn't play well, and the Indians, to their credit, turned out to be a little bit better than we thought they were because they probably should have won the World Series being up 3-1. So, I don't know, what do you say? You move on. And
Well, I figured the Indians were coming in town, and it was going to be a 3-game sweep in the end of Farrell. But the Sox won last night. They have Sale going tonight. So looks like they may have a chance until the Yankees accelerate.
Well, you look at that. You know, I look at the Red Sox, and I see what the Yankees did, and everybody's saying, "Well, the Yankees are better." You hear Maserati. A lot of them are saying the Yankees are better than them right now. But looking at them as a Yankee fan, I'm looking at the Red Sox, and I'm saying, Nunez and Devers. I mean,
that's going to be big.
that's huge for the Red Sox
Yes.
because it may take a little pressure off Betts, Bogarts, Bradley,
Can't hurt.
Benintendi, because they're not playing to the best of their ability. You have these 2 guys who are hitting. If they keep hitting, those other guys are going to just follow them.
Well, it surely looks that Bogarts has regressed offensively, defensively, base running. He's got the helicopter swing now. I don't know what that, maybe after he got hit in the hand, he can't hold the bat. I don't know. But most of the time, he's releasing the bat with his top hand. I don't know.
You know something? They got Brock Holtis taking some at-bats away now from, Benintendi's getting some rest. Maybe they ought to do that with him. I mean, one of the best ways to get a young player to pay more attention is to ride the pine for a game or 2. Sit him for
But
1
I know-
2 out of 3.
But one thing I know about baseball, the season is so long, it's like 3 or 4 different seasons.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you get a little tired, that can really screw up your swing.
Especially
You know?
mentally tired.
When you get tired in there, you're not as quick with the bat. And I'm seeing that with Judge now.
I was going to say, he had
Judge is
a
going through it.
spell when he really struggled. He
Yeah.
seems like he's getting back on
He's
track
getting out of
now.
it a little now, but he's still I'm seeing him, and boy, he's had some terrible at-bats. I watched all the Yankee games that are on TV. A lot of terrible at-bats. You get tired in baseball. It's one sport. You start losing it. And I think a blessing for the Red Sox, believe it or not, is Price being on a disabled list early on, now going on a 10-day disabled list. Because one thing you got to look at with Price, I believe pitchers, when they struggle in the playoffs, it's mostly because they pitch too many innings and they're getting tired.
Sure.
I told you that with
Most of
Porcello.
them anyway, yeah.
I said that with Porcello last year. He was pitching great. 2 games before the playoffs. That game I watched him pitch. I said, he doesn't have the same bite on his slide.
Yeah, he got tired. I
doesn't-
know exactly what you're talking
And they were
about.
hitting him. They were hitting some shots. He only gave up 3 runs in that game. So I said he shouldn't pitch his final start. They should rest him, right? Get him ready for the playoffs, right? They pitch him in his final start. He gets hit again. Then he goes into the playoffs and then he's
And he
not
didn't look the
sharp.
same in the playoffs.
But I really believe now Price has only pitched 60-something innings. He's going to be, the most he'll be is around 100, right? In that area. Every year he's over 200.
yeah.
I think it's a blessing for the Red Sox. If Price's arm is okay, you are going to see him stronger in the playoffs than you will see Seal. Because Seal's going to be overpitched.
Hopefully
'Cause
they're
they
going to do the right thing with Seal.
Seal's
in
going to
that
throw over
regard.
200 innings,
But
and that's
Seal-
what you got to watch
Seal
Well,
out.
don't
seems
worry,
like he can-
Pomerantz will break down instead.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. You know, you go into a short series, and which Price are you going to get now? Because the one against the Yankees, he was outstanding. I mean, at least
Yeah.
for one game, and of course, you know, thanks to a tremendous Jackie Bradley robbing Judge of that home run, you know, he ends up with a shutout. But are you going to see that? Because that's of the sample size, we haven't seen that too much since he's been in a Red Sox uniform.
But if his arm's all right, I think
Right.
there
Even when
could
he's
be.
been throwing pretty well, his command hasn't been where,
I don't think
where
it's-
it used to be.
This year, I mean, there's been a bunch of games that, you know, I understand it's not always going where the catcher sets up, but there's been some games that it appeared to me that either they were just way on the wrong page or he just was not getting the ball
I think
anywhere near
what
it.
you see when people have active inflammation in the elbow is loss of velocity. You know, last year Price was down in the low 90s. Now he's back in the mid 90s. When Tanaka was struggling with his elbow, he was in
Yeah.
the 90. Now he's back up a bit. So he's been good. Sabathia has been surprisingly good this year.
Yeah, if Tanaka and Sabathia are the keys for the Yankees, now they have Gray, Severino is definitely a number 1 pitcher. He can go up against anybody, you know, and beat them. So you got Severino, you have Gray, Tanaka, Sabathia, Montgomery has been.
Yeah, you just need four starters in the playoffs.
But the Red Sox, you look at the Red Sox, now when they got Reed, you look at the Red Sox, their bullpen looks a lot better with Reed now. And if Kelly comes back and he's all right after he comes off the disabled list,
I said, that's all. I think the pitching, they'll be okay, theoretically, but the bat, you know, you're adding these 2 bats to the lineup. It's still awfully hard, though, when you have to think replacing Ortiz. You knew you weren't going to replace him, at least with 1 bat anyway. But, you know, they really just have too many of the same players in that lineup,
do.
though. I mean, you know, when you got 265 averages, it's one thing if they're batting 320, but when you get 5, 6 batters in a row that are only going to get, you know, you're looking at what, you know, 3 hits every 11 at bats. Through the course of the game, you know, you end up with a bunch of players left on base, and you end up with 1 or 2 runs, which is what they've been doing a lot.
but I think they have a chance with Devers and Nunez, you know, and if Pedroia comes back hot. I don't know if any of them can play first base.
Well, they're getting nothing from
Moreland,
well, Moreland. They're getting nothing from
Marrero,
Marrero.
he
Well,
went down.
Mitch
They sent
Moreland-
him down.
You know, Mullen gave him what he was, more than he was supposed to give him, and his stats are kind of in line with everybody else's if you look at it. It's kind
But
of,
say Devers
you know.
could play first. He probably can't. Him or Nunez can play first. Then you got a line. You got that infield. But again, it's useless if Betts is going to keep hitting 270. Benintendi is going to be inconsistent. He's in a slump again, 260 something. You know, but
Well, one of the things with young players, of course, is confidence. So when you go in a slump, you say, what's the matter? I can't hit anymore? Or Benintendi's probably never had a struggle like this through his whole athletic career.
well, you know how it is with young players, too, though. Early in the season, sometimes you guess right. 9 out of 10 times you guess right, and the game is so easy. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. And then all of a sudden, you know, a lot of these crafty pitchers, they see you next time, they give you nothing that you saw before. You go into a 1 for 39 slump, and next thing you know, you're second guessing everything, and you're guessing nothing right. You start just, you know, reaching.
But you're right. You know, let's say Devers keeps hitting, they move him up in the lineup, then all of a sudden Betts doesn't have to worry, he gets a couple more hits.
and maybe Ramirez starts hitting a little.
Yeah, so it's
consistent.
hitting is contagious. When a couple guys start hitting, other people start hitting.
Like
Yeah.
Dombrowski said, listen, we have the players here. They just got to play better. When you look at this team, when I'm looking at this full team, who's got a better starting pitching rotation than them? if Price is healthy.
I agree. That's the thing. That's what
You know, I mean,
you know.
you go Seal, Price, Porcello, you got Rodriguez, you got
Pomerantz.
Pomerantz, in the bullpen now with Reed. I mean, you got 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Well, 7 now is Workman. Workman looks like he's
Well,
found
Kelly, if
himself.
Kelly comes off, if he's fine off the disabled, does he have, what do you have, a hamstring?
I think so.
If he comes back fine, he was pitching great. You got him in the 7th, Reed in the 8th.
Well, I think they
then
got the components are there. You're right. I think that, pitching wise,
They got the best defensive outfield in baseball.
Yeah. You know what it is, though, to me? The one thing that always wins games is you need good pitching. You have to have good pitching. You have to have a good bullpen. Situational hitting is what really wins these World Series, though. It's unbelievable when the guys just.
You got to have a couple of guys.
You got a Bill Miller, though, that might bat 274, but he's going to knock it in, just like those Yankees teams of the 90s. They had those guys, the Brocious, that would get up. He was 1 for 6, but he'd knock in the winning run.
But that is the key. Devers and Nunez are the key.
Yeah.
Because
Hopefully.
if they keep hitting, if they ever keep hitting,
Well,
into the
Dombrowski's not going to
playoffs,
make a big trade, so
they
they got
oughta-
to be.
They
they'll
oughta-
carry guys like Betts. Betts will start hitting.
Well, they ought to have a rule that players don't listen to sports radio because it doesn't help as far as,
Yeah, but they deserve it, Ron.
well,
If any team deserves it, the Red Sox deserve it. They get
Well,
up and
yeah,
applaud.
no, I have no problem with people
When he
being,
ambushes Eckersley, when Price ambushes Eckersley, and the rest of the team is applauding,
yeah, it's,
that's a disgrace.
That's a disgrace to me, too, because Eckersley played the game, and I think he's very respectful in his comments. I mean,
is.
what is yuck? I mean, it's just
not
a-
covering first base, and he said, I did in the past. It cost him a couple of runs.
I know. I think he's very honest. I think he's good. I don't understand.
Oh, that's not good what Pedroia did when he points.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he's supposed to say. What are you supposed to be, like the radio guys?
well, the other
That
night,
won't say anything negative?
Barnes is pitching and is, I think, first and second and or bases loaded, and he's backing up home plate. Except the hits to right field, and he's somewhere over near the first base side. He's not even on the right side of the base. Like, he played college baseball. He's played baseball all his life. Like a little league pitcher knows where to go to back up home plate. So I think that's, maybe you don't say it that way, but you can say, looks like the pitcher wasn't in the proper spot to back up home plate. And that meant an extra base for 2 runners. I mean, little things make a difference in the long run.
Well, we've become a really intolerant society, as we know, with politically correct BS across the board. But if we really gotten to the point where even the analysts have to watch, they have to measure their words, I mean,
You hear Price, though?
yeah, that's
Price says now he's saying a lot of good things since I yelled at him.
yeah, that's
He doesn't get it.
it's an embarrassment to me because you know what? You ought to be able to say exactly that this guy's been playing baseball his whole life. He ought to know where to stand to back up home plate.
Geez, I thought about when we did the basketball games. I'm saying, wow.
Well, no, I think that it's hard to be descriptive as an announcer without describing what actually happened. And if people make a defensive mistake or they overthrow the cutoff man, the guy gets an extra base, well, that's a big deal. I mean, in a close game.
We're doing high school football games, and I'm over there complaining about the play call.
Got to watch out now. They might have picket signs. Ralph must go.
Coach Morris never came at me, never screamed at me. Although we're always very positive 99% of the time.
Well, the chances are they watch the games with the sound off.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I think Jeff edits some of my
that's
comments.
probably the case.
Well, there's not quite 60 games left in the season. The Astros have pretty much locked up the West.
They lost with the shortstop, though.
Correa's out for a while. Kansas City has made a big charge, and it looks like Kansas City is going to be there along with Cleveland. And then 2 out of, Red Sox, Yankees, Tampa. Tampa looks like they're fading a little. So, it could be the Red Sox against Kansas City in the wild card game, something like that, or the Yankees against Kansas
Well, the
City.
Yankees got to get Castro back and Nunez. And Hicks. Hicks and then Castro. Castro's been out with a hamstring.
How's Betances been pitching lately? He went through a period where he was kind of
He's
struggling.
And I'd say 3 out of every 4 appearances, he's really sharp. That 4th appearance, they got someone else ready in case he's wild. So he's finally did the right thing, Girardi. So if he's a little wild, he brings in another relief. But
Well, that's
Wa-
smart.
Warren, now that he's got Robertson, he's got that other guy from on the deal from Chicago,
Oh, Robertson.
Robertson. But the other guy they got throws 98 miles
Oh.
an hour too.
Now, what I will have to say, though, what I wonder is, you know, I'm impressed with the job Girardi does out there. You know, I think he's a good manager.
He's blown some games.
He-
though.
sure,
when they
yeah.
went on that bad streak, he was doing it.
Yeah, who was it?
If that was Farrell, they would have fired him.
Who was it? Earl Weaver? He said, "You know how many games I've won?" He goes, "But I'll lose you a bunch." I mean, the death watch has to be on for Farrell at some point.
Realistically, a manager probably makes 3 games a year, difference decision here and there. You know, you leave the pitcher in too long, and you go from a 3-2 game to a 6-2 game, that kind of stuff.
I think the managing by numbers thing, though, in all sports across the board, has just become, you know, that if you manage by the numbers, like in other words, this is what every armchair quarterback would do, you get no credit for it. You know, because well, he was supposed to do that, so it doesn't mean anything. But if you do any one thing outside the box and it costs you, you're an idiot and this and that.
Well, let's talk about rules changes. Like, one thing is, some of these catchers are going out 5 times
Yeah,
an
I
inning.
know.
That can't happen. I mean,
The other day, what was it, 2 days ago? Vasquez went out a number of times.
they're all doing it.
I'm all for a clock, like a shot clock. I'm all for, you know, pitcher sets, batter sets. That's it. 5 seconds to throw the ball, or it's a ball.
Well,
Batter steps out, it's a strike.
last night, Clevenger is pitching, and Betts, and he's in the stretch, and he's just waiting. And I knew Betts had to step out, because you're not going to stay there for 8 seconds if the pitcher's in the stretch forever. It's just,
But one other thing I think the Red Sox should do, what's very important, is they got to give Seal a rest. They got to have him miss a start soon. I'm seeing him overthrow. He's throwing hard every game, and he's using that arm. I mean, it comes true with his arm. He's snapping his wrist, his elbow. I mean, I think he could eventually, something could happen to him. He just gives 100%. Like, he
I know,
reminds me, remember in the All-Star game when Pedro struck out, what he struck out, 8 in a row?
5 out
Yeah.
of
And
6.
And he hurt his shoulder
yeah, he
and
pitches
back.
like Randy Johnson. He slings it. Or
You know, I worry about him getting. I think they should give him a start where he give him like 6 days off, maybe.
yeah, these guys who throw real hard, the low 3/4. Remember Guba's Saberhagen. You just feel like, boy.
Buckholz too. Buckholz over.
Well, Buckholz is out, right, for the year, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, you
he's-
knew that with him the way he threw the ball. But
Yeah.
Seal, I don't know how he hasn't hurt his arm.
I think, though, you know, back in the day, somebody like Billy Martin would have just said to, if he was theoretically, he would have said, all right, Chris, listen, you're going to go on the 10-day DL, right? You hurt your shoulder, and that'll be it. And, you know, managers did that stuff all the time, and just, you know, that was how you rested somebody up. But these players, they weren't worrying about contracts back then because free agency was nothing like it is today. Now it's all stat related. It's, you know, if I'm going to make my next contract, I need to have this many innings.
But
Well-
how many did the Red Sox win by last year where they could have given?
Just 2, I think.
It
It was a
Wasn't much.
close one.
I mean-
it was in the last 3 games that they clinched. right?
Dombrowski gets credit for Kimbrel and Sale. I mean, you can't. That was a good deal. Those both were good deals.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they gave up stuff like Manuel Margot, who's out in is it Arizona. But what about some of the other things? If we could only get a third baseman who might hit 40 home runs this year,
Sure.
Shaw and Thornburg, can the guy even brush his teeth?
You know something?
He's gotten some bad breaks though with Carson and him.
Yeah, Carson
We thought
Smith.
at the time, though, you know, when we signed Kung Fu Panda, we thought it was going to be, all right, this is great. You know, he's going to bring great defense because he did that in San Francisco, which, of course, his defense stunk before he went out for the year last year. But it was okay. We had Shaw. So we were all set. And how's that look now?
Wow, that would have. I mean, the Yankees just as bad when they gave up on Gamble.
Well, and
Gave Seattle Gamble
Yeah,
for
they gave
about
him-
no one.
But the
Exactly.
Yankees won the trade deadline last year because they traded off some guys and got talent. And this year they got talent and traded off some second line prospects. So they really didn't give up their top guys.
Them and the Red Sox should both make it.
I mean, the
They
Red
should
Sox
make
don't
it.
have any top guys left. Who's their best guy? Chavis now in Double-A?
Well, here's a question. Right now, where the 2 teams are at, who do you think is in a better position to go, if not this year, in the next 4 or 5 years? The Red Sox or the Yankees?
Yankees, no doubt.
Well,
You wouldn't have said that 2 years ago, though.
no, but the
They
problem,
really made some great moves in the last
Well,
couple of years.
They
Yeah,
got rid
but
of
I'm-
Teixeira and Rodriguez deadweight
But
contracts.
the one that I'm still a little concerned about is Judge. I'm
Well-
hoping he doesn't turn out to be a Kingman.
Well, you know something?
He said he has some terrible. I watched the kid from L.A.
He's got a big swing.
The young kid from L.A.
I
What's his
think
name?
Judge was on twice his, I think his high school team won the state championship in basketball. I think he was a great wide receiver,
Yeah.
too. I mean, I think
He's a great athlete,
I think he's going to be fine.
but I think he's got to change his stance a little. He's coming from. I just watched some of his swings and pitches right down the middle that other batters would drive. Lately, I think he's lost the edge a little. Maybe he's tired.
Could be
And
that. you
he's
know,
picking it up a little now, but just a little. But he's had some terrible at bats.
162 games, though. A lot of games, you know.
Well, I think the biggest mistake the Yankees made, aside from Sabathia, was Ellsbury. Ellsbury's really not been good.
He gave him one season, you know, and it was
Yeah.
one good season. It
I'm
wasn't
hoping he
like an
gets
MVP
going.
season.
But every year he starts
on the
off well,
bench
then he
now,
gets
isn't he?
hurt. He had
Didn't
that
they,
concussion. Before he got the concussion,
But
he
he
was playing
always got
good.
hurt.
yeah, didn't the kid? They put what's his
Frazier.
name? He's ahead of him now, right?
Kid Frazier's
Yeah.
in left field. They like him. And
I think he's just going
they
to be a
moved Gardner to
situational
center.
starter now.
I mean,
But Judge is going to be the key because Sanchez, you know, is going to hit.
Yeah.
He's going to hit a little. He's
They
going to
got
hit
some
with
good
power.
players. I like Didi Gregorius.
Yeah, he's good. And
know?
Castro back there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have to say, I know we're from Boston. We're supposed to hate the Yankees and everything, you know, but I look at the team and I think they're a likable team. I think that you look at, they got some good players and some good positions, and it's hard to say that this team is not poised to go forward.
I think it's different than even a decade ago. There's never going to be Varitek, A-Rod kind of stuff anymore. It's everybody's a buddy-buddy.
We're probably
and-
15 years from that, but I mean, you know, if you think about it, way back in the day of, you know, Greg Nettles and Bill Lee and bench clearing brawls and all that stuff. I mean, those guys hated each other.
Juan Marichal and Johnny Roseborough.
Yeah,
I mean,
The Red Sox, even the Varitek days, I mean, those teams didn't really hate each other. You could totally see a few of those guys going out for drinks somewhere after a game somewhere, you know. But even still, that was as far as ratings went and testosterone. I mean, that was as good as it got.
But you look at the Red Sox, right? I look at things that way. I look at, you know, teams that, you know, the Yankees have to go up against and all that. You look at the Red Sox and you see, look at Benintendi, he's hitting 260. You would think he'd be a 300 hitter.
Should be.
He should be a 300 hitter. The swing
But
he
he
has.
lost about
Well,
25 points
But
off his average.
you look
in
at
the last
Bradley.
months.
Bradley's inconsistent. You know he's a great fielder and he's inconsistent. He's going through one of his things now, but if he gets going, you look at Betts, 270. He's a 310, 320 hitter.
He's the biggest problem, though. I think he kind of shouldered the load probably more than anyone else, feeling that, and let's face it, is he going to be a perennial 30 home run guy? You figure he's going to be more of 21 homers,
310.
25, 30 stolen bases, a 310 average, and good fielding,
So you look at those three guys.
which
if
is
they
great
play,
if he gives you that.
you know, the best they can play. Actually, right now they're playing the worst they can play.
Yeah, they're all
So if they
underperforming
get going,
stat-wise.
if those three get going and Bogarts gets going, with Devers and Nunez now, you know, with those bats,
Yeah.
you know, the way I look at it, I say, well, the potential for the Red Sox with that starting lineup and the bullpen they have now is very good.
Well,
they could, but you don't know if you keep getting what you're getting, you may not even make the playoffs.
Well,
I think Betts is the best right fielder they've ever had. Evans was a terrific right fielder, great arm, but he didn't have the range. Betts just
Betts is a
covered.
better
Betts is
runner.
unreal.
Betts gets the balls Evans never would have got to.
Well, him and
Evans-
Bradley.
Yeah, you never see right fielders catching the ball in foul territory behind second base in Fenway, and he does somehow.
Yeah. I mean,
Judge made that
I
play.
really like that kid, and I think he's going to be fine. I don't think his average is going to stay where it is. Maybe for this season. I think next year he turns it around. You know,
But I think Benintendi, when he hit some home runs, got pull happy, and then they put the shift on and the pull happy, and that's really hurting him. He's got to start hitting the ball the other way more.
He reminds me, I thought he was going to be like Fred Lynn, but he's young.
Yeah, he's just a
should bring
kid.
in Ortiz. Ortiz was great at that. Just that, you know, he knew the shift was on. And, you know, how many times did he get the right pitch and he just put it down.
Now, what did you think about the Pedroia interview with, you see any of the leaders
Yeah,
here?
that's
I'm the leader.
stupid.
How did you feel about that?
That was kind
He's
of.
embarrassing himself this year.
There
He's
are
one of my favorite
times.
players.
There are times when he's really good when he's candid. There are times when he's a little edgy, and you say, that's him. That right there was too far.
Has he made an error yet this year?
That's a good question. I don't even know what his fielding position
no,
is. He's been really.
no.
I never tend
he
to
had
look
over
at him
100
'cause
games.
He's
I mean,
great at just.
There was the game in Texas where he made the play off, it ricocheted off the wall, and he caught it in one hand and with one motion and threw the guy out, rounding the bag. I've never really seen that play before. But I think sometimes you're a leader by example, and if you're a leader by example like Pedroia, and then you try to become the vocal
You can't
leader.
become Marc Messier when you're not. That's
Yeah.
what it really amounts to.
Right. It just looks, it's got a bad look to it.
I agree.
So, I mean, but what I would like is a little more honesty around, Farrell, give me a break. It's okay. If the guy had a bad day, say, he had a bad day.
He's the biggest BS artist there ever
Well, he's
is.
the one who let Price get away with it. Because he's
Right.
upset at Maloney. He's upset at that whole show for knocking him. Well, the two shows, Maloney's show and then the show.
Well, Farrell made the bed last year with Jessica Moran, and then because there's all this organizational talk about not having relationships with the broadcasters and the employees, and then Farrell does it. So
then they break up. Yeah, they're not together anymore.
really, well, anyway. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Ron Sen.
I'm Lou Spagnola.
And I'm Ralph Labella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.